Yeah, it looks like they're going to steal away the Kalista, which means chances are we're going to see the Amumu as well, which honestly I think is a really just strong combination at the moment. The only thing is that Renata, when you are going for these kind of dive combinations, can work exceptionally well in that case in trying to slow down the pace of that. Aphelios, also a good answer into the Kalista as well, so I wouldn't mind to see the Amumu just to try and get some early pressure on this map and try and find these team fights before this combo between the Renata and the Aphelios comes online late game.
Well, XinLiu's ready to have a tantrum. Just note that last time around we saw this on IG, it was Wink who piloted it, with Arn coming in playing the Kalista now. I don't know if there's a secret handshake here for the bottom lane of IG, Dagda, so I'm going to leave that open to thought. But assuming this time that it is actually just Wink that picks up the Kalista again. We can talk about that as we round out drafts, because I have more important questions for you for now. And that's what we're going to see in the solo lane, considering that this time around, Yuekai might have something like the Galio, something like his all-in mid laner, as he starts banning away Doinbs again.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see one ban towards the top side. It was the Renata last time for LNG. Whereas on IG side, I think you'd get rid of the Talia. You also get rid of the Azir. I think Azir would just cause a ton of issues for you. And with the short range composition that you've gone for here in Invictus Gaming side. And it would also lean into that late game scaling that LNG tend to favor. So I'd have to see if that is going to be the game plan. But as you said, I thought we'd actually see LNG go for like top lane ban, then the Galio ban, but they are leaving it open, which is a pretty terrifying combination, I must say, when you've already got that Amumu locked in. A Galio in on top of that is going to cause a lot of issues, but it does mean that your early game damage profile is pretty much all in on Wink and maybe a little bit from Shun. So we'll have to see if they want to index that heavily into having so little damage.
And they're not even going to take it off with the final ban as well, so further to your point, a nice way to round it out considering that Yuekai is such an initiator for IG. The Azir would be left field here, maybe more of a takeaway from Doinb as they banned it in the first game. They're worried about him picking it up, and IG just say that we need to make sure he doesn't get it.
Yeah, I mean, it does mean that you've got a weird, again, profile from IG side where you've got, you know, very early damage coming through on the bottom side. You've got a mid laner that doesn't really lend itself towards early skirmishes, or at least you can try and get some priority in the mid lane to lean in towards dragons, but it's not exactly the best way for you to play. So I'm kind of surprised again by the way that IG are trying to optimize their bridges to the late game, but we'll have to see how it goes. On the other side, LNG, Tarzan going to opt back in towards the Poppy, which honestly I think is a great shout when you've got so many things that like to dash and even just trying to avoid as many of these engages coming through from the Amumu as well. Looks like we're going to get some decent disengage potentially here for the Gragas, which would be for Doinb in the mid lane, which is kind of popping. I'm 100% down for this. So yeah, I like what LNG have gone for. Again, it's like team fight, very simplistic, decent engage, good disengage, everything you should kind of want here. So I think they're going to be in a pretty good spot against IG once more.
I know there's a lot of people out there, though, just to backtrack, that were looking at the hover of Zoe like I was, Dagda. And I was thinking, I'm about to throw out the most important stat in this series, but as it doesn't get locked in, I can't tell everyone that Doinb in his 812 games has never played Zoe. 812 competitive games from all the world championships, from all his time on, you know, LPL since 2015 QG Reapers. We don't get to talk about it today. We don't get to see Doinb debut the Zoe on stage, but we do get to see a crazy old draft from LNG. And Dagda, I want you to run me through now with the Fiora up in the top lane, what this achieves for IG, because we have a mix of scaling and, as you said, mix of identities coming through for game 2.
Yeah, I mean, Zika can have a reasonably good time against the Gnar if he's able to proc these vitals and get that chase down, but it definitely becomes more of a, hey, after first item, where Fiora can get a little bit of that control in that lane, especially kind of looking like level 9, level 10, and where she's got full cooldown reduction on her her lunges as well, makes things a hell of a lot easier. But it doesn't, again, fill me with a lot of confidence for IG just playing towards what has been their strengths, which is team fights. You've got an Azir that wants to scale into the late game. You got a Fiora that can do reasonably well in team fights now with the durability buffs, because you can see that oftentimes she has a little bit more health to actually get the ultimate proc off, which then gets a ton of healing in. Grievous Wounds being nerfed makes that even more so of a problem. So I think that that's where you're probably going to see IG try and look to, but again, it just feels a bit all over the place from IG with I mean, you don't have a front line to set up for Yuekai, to set up for Wink. I don't know. It just, nothing on IG seems cohesive here. Whereas when we look across at LNG, we've already said, like, super simple, front to back team fight, good engage, great disengage. Like, it's everything you kind of want here from your squad.
And we got a Gragas mid, so you add on to that layer the 10th unique champion for Doinb. And once again, the MVP target of what has been the strongest MVP leader in our league. Mind you, 6 here, first in the league. I feel like he could have gotten it for the first game, but of course, Ala picked that one up. But Doinb, he's gone for the phase rush here, Dagda. And up against Yuekai, I'm just curious to see this laning phase, because this AP and Gragas hits you very surprisingly in the early stages of the lane.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to get a decent amount of push. Although, like, you can, get a decent amount of push usually with the Gragas, but because you are up against the Azir, has a ton of range, should be able to just try and play around that in the early stages and get this initial shove. But honestly, I think we'll probably see a very similar story from LNG that we saw in the last game, where they take it easy in the early stages. They're not really going to be massively proactive. Maybe Tarzan looks for a couple of ganks here and there, but realistically, they're waiting for the mid game where you have Gragas with the Everfrost, Ala will have his Divine Sunder or Triforce, and Light as well even should have at least a Gale Force to his name.
So let's reiterate again. So for IG, you want to see the ball rolling to keep the game off, Dagda, because you said that because it's not cohesive, because it's a bit all over the place. At the very least, we know Viego, Fiora, you like Kalista. These are lanes that want to get the party started early on and take over their respective lanes.
Yeah, I feel like for IG, Shun needs to play heavily around this bottom side of the map. You do have the Amumu, who's great with the ability to have this double bandage toss to find engages, but you really are not tanky on this Amumu. So if you end up in a situation where you're even and you're trying to go for these engages, oftentimes you just end up dying off of the initial play that you go for. So I want to see if Shun can actually make his way down here and try and set up for that. Although it looks like with the pathing Tarzan has gone for, was kind of expecting some sort of level 3 play to the bottom side, because he's gone Red Raptors into Krugs, so maybe looking for play on the bot side here.
Maybe trying to be here at the right time as XinLiu gets the bandage toss with a handshake in, ignite down, even without Tarzan. They might not need him. XinLiu is just like, okay, I'm dead. I want to save Wink, and first blood given over to Light Dagda. Such a rough start for IG.
Ooh, looking for a handshake here as well, but not able to get it. So again, XinLiu just going for that double engage and kind of showing what I was talking about, where because you go for this glacial augment, you just don't have the stats that keep you tanky enough when you go for these initial engages. Now, Ala might feel Shun's damage.
He's only level 2, but Zika already took a turret shot. The root against the wall, the hop to buy time. Ala's flash, beautiful as well. Onto Shun, who burns his own, but Tarzan here in the nick of time. Right where he needs to be if it comes to trade. And Tarzan, again on this pop B, seems to be outclassing.
He's in the right place at the right time, but unfortunately it does mean that Ala will end up going down. So TP's back to lane, bit of a CS disadvantage. Tarzan now trying to look to get onto Zika, but Zika got the kill. So at least IG now with that should have given a little bit of wiggle room to Zika to try and play through this lane a bit easier. But now LNG are looking mid.
Can they find anything? I mean, Light has obviously been spotted out of lane. Yuekai is playing it safe, and it is an Azir. As Tarzan goes for the invade, Dagda, he's going to take away one of Shun's camps as he's going to spot him right about now with the control ward going down, but Tarzan's already got the camp in mind, and he'll have himself a bit of a CS lead as well, Dagda, as we look at the bottom side play where XinLiu started this one off.
Yeah, so, I mean, XinLiu tries to go aggressive, but Wink not really on the same page. Not able to get any sort of damage followed up, especially with a wave that big. You don't really want to be trying to play into that. So XinLiu just completely caught out, and then here, Ala tries his damnedest to make this happen. I was surprised that they had the ability to try and take down Ala, because I thought this terror damage was going to ramp up way more than it did, but with Tarzan coming in, they're able to get shut off the back line.
And so the trade goes over, as you said, denying a bit of CS in the top lane. So a good start for Zika, who picks up the first blood, but, well, not the first blood, the response in the top lane for IG. But as you were saying, we also saw the bottom lane play. We saw that Light is now in a massive position. 10 CS up here as we just keep watching mid. Doinb and Yuekai battling it out for the time being, and nothing much more to say than that. But Dagda, there's Berserker Greaves already in that bottom lane. Wink is behind, and we know that LNG had a pretty decent Aphelios in the last game, and once again just pacing themselves towards a nice start to this second game.
And this is what we're talking about for LNG. It's more so about trying to play through these lanes rather than looking for any sort of, well, I was going to say big objectives, but LNG, with the push they have on bot side and also having the push in mid, Doinb is going to be able to roam over. So they're actually going to look, but Doinb relatively low on mana, and with XinLiu being level 3, I don't know if IG can actually take this fight.
Maybe it doesn't matter because Yuekai now has no health bar, so Doinb uses what's left and still has another rotation. XinLiu goes in for the bandage toss, but damage reduction from Doinb, that's so easily done. To his death, IG not on the same page, especially after Yuekai got bursted down. Dagda, like, what is going on with this team in this series?
Yeah, XinLiu does not look comfortable in this Amumu. Like, you are incredibly squishy on this pick. Like, a lot of people think, oh, well, you know, Amumu's great, he banditages in, he's able to soak a ton of damage. That's when he builds tank. That's when he's taking things like Aftershock. When you take the Glacial Augment, you don't have that tanky stats built in, so even managing to connect onto Doinb with the bandage toss means it's like the worst possible target to try and set up onto.
There's Wink now has to cleanse, but it's early. It's early with the bailout. Light gets so much damage across. Thank you to his miniature turret. And now, all of a sudden, Wink is down a summoner, and it can't get worse at this point, Dagda. It can't get worse for IG, surely.
I mean, this doesn't even feel like an IG game right now. I mean, you got Yuekai on a late game damage dealer rather than some sort of facilitator. Shun as well being on something that he can't be massively proactive on in the Viego.
True.
And the only thing that actually makes it feel like an IG game is more like what we saw at the start of the split, where the bot lane is struggling in the 2v2. Not sure if I've lost Hysterics or I just can't hear him.
Hey, I might be back, sir. You know what they say about OC internet? And none of it is broadcast appropriate, so I am back. My feed has frozen, Dagda, so while I get that sorted, you're going to have to take it. It's solo cast Dagda time. Hit the stage.
I'm ready. So here we go. So Yuekai just moving back over towards the mid lane. XinLiu, though, is going to spot out LNG, who are trying to stop him getting this freeze off. Will be able to do so, so the wave is going to eventually crash into the tower. But I think the big thing that we're looking at now is in 30 seconds time, that Rift Herald is going to spawn. And it looks like, at least from the moment, Light is going to move back down towards the spot side of the map. Lwandy, I imagine, is going to roam towards mid, look to help Doinb get control over this mid lane, and then try and move over in towards the Rift Herald. But we'll have to see, because I feel like without Light here, LNG can't really go for the fight, and Wink has actually set up a slow push on the bot side, so IG can look to try and move members up to this top end.
Well, Dagda, I can tell you I'm back, so thank you for the solo cast. Honestly, if you wanted to take it the whole time, if you weren't, you know, feeling ill, a bit
if my voice could handle it. Yeah.
That's true, dude, that's true. But to be fair, one of us will break before the end of the night, even if it's only a 4-game night. You and I struggling a little bit, as I said on Twitter, we got a fever. But it wasn't about more cowbell, it was about more Dagda casts. As we fill in the gaps, IG are going to move down to the bottom side, and as you said, the movement from LNG going to be questioned a bit here, but they're going to converge in, and for XinLiu, he still doesn't have his ultimate, Dagda.
Oh, the flash going to miss, though.
But now XinLiu is spotted out. Doinb's here, his explosive cast, and once again,
oh,
I mean, it's horrible. LNG win top side as well. What more do you say? IG, where is the spark gone? Where's the magic? It's like going to Disneyland and all the rides are shut.
Yeah, this is not...
Oh my god. Okay, well. Yuekai adding insult to injury. Emperor's Divide. He's got flash available, but that ulti now burned. He has to give up on the top lane, and Arlo's going to keep beating this away. Well, look at the bottom lane, Dagda. Both side lanes are a travesty, and this is not the IG I've been hyping up all split long. This is not the IG where I'm like, man, they've got Mojo, they've got Sass. IG right now, bleh, that's what I'm thinking. Yuekai is about to die. Arla, with a turret shot, he will still die himself, but, I mean, you're adding a little bit of insult to forever injury.
Yeah, I'm just glad that IG's mental broke before my voice did on this cast. That's the one positive I'm taking from this. But again, I mean, it's LNG actually doing relatively well, right? Yeah. We're seeing them coordinated around dragons. They got the Mountain Dragon. We're seeing them coordinated around the Rift Herald. Like, they are actively trying to set up for these plays. And look, you can still see Ala going for some of these fun plays as well. But Tarzan on this Poppy has been absolutely spectacular. And when we highlighted the jungle matchup at the start of the day, saying, hey, look, Shun has been the one that's more proactive. Shun has been the one that's been getting help from his team. Tarzan has been the one in the firm driver's seat in this matchup all series long.
Yeah, the Poppy 2 games in a row. First game, close to 100% kill participation. And the second one, once again, it seems like he's doing so much work as Light now with the ulti onto Wink. Look at the damage. Gravitum's already been burnt out, and Light's not going to commit anything else. Dagda, he doesn't have the Gale Force yet, but as he makes that back, he will, and maybe it goes a little bit differently. Forcing out Wink in the bottom lane is only the start of good news here for LNG fans. There's 2k gold lead in the first 10 minutes, a dragon under their wing, and Dagda, we don't have to talk about that narrative of LNG foregoing dragons, being all over the place. In this series, and especially in this game, they're right on top of the objective on spawn.
Yeah, this is so much more confident from LNG, and this is what has kind of been missing from their gameplay a lot, is just the confidence to work as a team, play for these early objectives, and then when they get to the mid-game where a lot of the time they are just better hands than their opponents, where they can actually like have an advantage and find these moments to look for fights rather than trying to fight at a massive disadvantage. Now though, LNG looking for a dive as well here.
It's just XinLiu. He has the ultimate now and his flash is back up and available, so that is a good news story. But by themselves, even without the Herald getting plopped down, LNG should be able to take this turret, and Wink and XinLiu are going to be walking up, but at the very least the next wave will help do that as Arla and Zika, another 1v1 coming through. The Grand Challenge already burned and actually just procced onto Arla. But Shun now with a flank and the Grand Challenge being down with Gnar available. I'm not sure how the dive's going to go, Dagda.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to see Arla try and step up to deal some damage, but...
Yeah, he's going Gnar. That's a heartbreaker in the nick of time. Zika manages to get out, so a close call, but worthwhile here for IG. Finally getting themselves something on this map.
Yeah, it was the best call from Ala. He wanted to try and step forward, get some damage either on the minions or onto Zika to prevent the dive because he'd hit Gnar, but maybe IG sticking around too long, but I think they should be able to get out here.
A little person with a hammer running at Zika. The Predator used, Shun spotted out, hit into the air. Doinb with the barrel, and that's easily done. The Heartbreaker's on cooldown, as we saw from the last play. As Tarzan picks up the kill, and LNG always with something to say in response. Even the Herald is speaking words.
And that's going to be so much gold over to Light. Bot tower, 3 kills, more plates on top side. Light is monstrous in this game.
Oh, yeah.
And again, who deals with him on IG? Like, Wink is already out of the equation because of how abysmal bot lane went. Yuekai is waiting on several items before he really becomes relevant. And you've got no front line. So anyone who actually steps up to try and get on towards Light is just going to go into that meat grinder and cause just find themselves, I mean, completely processed by what LNG's composition wants to do.
As you said, no tank, no front line. XinLiu eventually, but if we get to 40 minutes, at this point, you know, 50, it feels like for IG. They're 4k goal behind all of a sudden, and that was 3 minutes in the making, Dagda. Do you remember, 3 minutes ago, I said it was only 2. As they're approaching Dragon, as they're approaching their second objective, IG were within fighting distance, but now we're just at a point where I struggle to see how they come back into this game. You talked a little bit about Yuekai and Zika and what they add to the scaling of this team, but I think you're going to give me a little bit more as to how you can play this game out if you're IG and so far behind the play.
Honestly, I just don't see it. Shun might get caught out here, but if you had a core identity, I'd be like, oh yeah, cool. You know, maybe you can play through side with Zika, collapse on mid, but realistically, I mean, Zika's kind of far behind. Ala is in a great spot, and your engage isn't really there. Like, it doesn't feel like you have any sort of easy way back into the game other than win lane, win game.
Just watching Light because he has Flash, he has Gale Force available. Wink decided to play that one as a 50-50 as Doinb. Just seeing Yuekai. I'm not sure what happened there, Dagda. I think we saw a shifting sands. Doinb did predict it here as the back was caught out onto Yuekai, but now these mid laners facing off as a blast once again in the perfect place. Doinb is Tarzan. Oh my god. Well, everybody gets one.
Well, Ala needs a lot more.
Yeah, he's going to die, though. At least Grand Challenge coming through. And you're right, Dagda, playing through this top laner seems to be the way that IG are actually clawing something back in this game. So you're on the money here, giving everything over to Zika. Shun benefiting as well. And IG might even find themselves a second turret in a game where they probably shouldn't have any.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get Zika to split push away to victory, fantastic. But I think the problem is that you're going to start to run into is that there's too many big objectives going to start coming up for LNG to just have Zika play side lane. Like, third dragon now up in 45 seconds. You have Ala back on the map. LNG should win out in the team fight there because of how big Light is. And then when you try, if you want to try and play for like top tower instead, well, now you're just looking at a potential Hex Soul for LNG, which is a really poor spot to be in for IG. And you don't really get to fight this as IG either. XinLiu is level 7 compared to, which is very far behind at 15 minutes into the game. Literally only sitting on boots, has no full item completed yet either. So this guy is not tanky in any way, shape or form. And if he's your engage tool for IG, I don't even know if he gets the ultimate off before he gets popped.
Because he has to face off against Shirelias, right? Even if they're in a bad position,
yeah.
LNG can relocate themselves. And for IG, everything needs to be perfect and lined up. I can hear what you're saying. Not tanky enough as Wink shows as well. He's not at that point. Explosive cast hits all 5 members from Doinb. Spreads them thin, and for IG, XinLiu gets the engage. It's only a 2-man curse of the sad mummy. He gets Fates called, saved by Wink, but here we go with the hostile takeover. Everybody starts whomping on each other, but LNG can do that so much better. Just watch Light as 2 more kills hit the dirt, and IG gets scattered. This series could be done in about 40 minutes, Dagda.
Yep. I mean, a kind of panic engage from XinLiu there, trying to see if he could make something happen, but God, LNG just set up perfectly. Cleanse comes through from Light. Lwandy just throws at the ult. Like, everything is just falling apart from IG, and I just don't get what these drafts have been. They haven't done themselves any favors at all.
Yeah, not towards their playstyle. Galio's open, right? Yuekai, it's one of his favorites. The set hovered in the first game, Dagda, which honestly would have looked so much better than something like the Zion. There are so many things we can pick apart from IG, but we don't really have to pick apart much from LNG as they are putting on a clinic here with the fat man in the mid lane, making sure everyone is under the influence of alcohol.
Yeah, forcing the flash from Wink here means that when this botched engage comes through from IG, Lwandy just flashes forward. Wink has nowhere to go and ends up kind of caught up by the hostile takeover. And even though he has the cleanse to get rid of it, it's just about slowing up for that moment so that the rest of LNG can follow through. Now 3 dragons to their name at 18 minutes into the game. I mean, how do you try and fight this IG? Because again, we said that potential win con from Zika. How, like, yes, he could potentially threaten the inhibitor turret on bot side, but he's massively overextended here. LNG could just collapse on bot if they want to, which looks like they might try and do here. So Zika has to back off. And then in 3 minutes time, you've got to go fight again against LNG.
Yep. And pull Rabbit out of the hat at this point. Gold back up to 3k, but that dragon you already mentioned. Baron's coming up in a minute 40. Yuekai is farming along, but again, there are so many ifs and buts and maybes here for IG in the second game in the series. And I feel bad because I feel like I misled our audience. You know, coming into the series, Dagda, you heard that I'm really sold on IG. Being a 1-5 team, it doesn't feel like they necessarily deserve to be down here right on top of WE in 16th place, but by this series, I think now we're starting to be like, well,
yeah,
how many excuses can we make for this team? You know?
I mean, they looked good. This is not a series where they've looked good. Yeah. And now Ala, or XinLiu even, flashing over the wall, seeing what he can make happen.
Explosive cast, just like that, Doinb's ultimate, which with blue buff as well, is going to go down devastatingly fast. Look at the mid lane. Light sends out his pet turret, and now with the Collector, this is a team that is going to be so susceptible to it. Sitting around the mid lane for the time being, Zika wants a flank, but it's well warded. Light with no flash available, but he walks into certain depth with grabbing him out the grand challenge as well. Slowed down, Light's going to die. So giving IG angles still in this game, that's still something to criticize.
I mean, a nice pick for IG. LNG now going to have to TP Ala in, who does have the Rift out that's about to charge into the inhibitor turret, so it looks like IG going to have to go back and defend against that. At least it is something back in their favor, but they do lose an inhibitor turret for it. So, I mean, from a map perspective, LNG winning out.
Again, yeah. I just want to talk some good about IG, Dagda, but game won't let me will it. And LNG, as they look for this one at the mid lane, an ambitious play from Light.
I mean, I don't mind this. I think if the second Q had connected, that would have been Yuekai forced back and then you're okay. But this one's just weird. Like, Zika spots... Light spots Zika on the ward, but then kind of realizes too late, oh, there's the entirety of IG pummeling down from the top side as well. So nowhere for him to go and to hide. I think kind of showing that, at least on LNG side, the lack of vision control on that top side, and also the deep vision that they could have set up off a couple of these pushes, now coming back to haunt them.
We're just looking a bit closer at some of that vision as well around the Baron pit. That ward not spotted out because everyone who plays League of Legends, which is the majority of the chat, I think I've been in chat sometimes, Dagda, and people actually like, oh, I don't play, I just watch, which is completely fair. Let's be real, solo queue sometimes can be a nightmare as Doinb comes out with the Hex Gates. We know that control wards do not span around that direction. We know the direction here is not relevant. XinLiu knocked back again. What more can you expect from this man? And it's not even important about the ward on the Baron because LNG got a pick right before their soul comes up.
Yeah, 30 seconds until that. XinLiu dead for 20. Your main engage tool on IG side. So now you're kind of looking going, well, Yuekai, it now falls to you. The Zhonya-less, stopwatchless Azir, who's got an item and a half, has to potentially try and engage this. But Zika overextended here as well. Doinb considering going for the play, but it looks like they don't want to fully commit too many resources here with Dragon.
Well, with Grand Challenge down and the flash from Arla, oh, that's so nice. Doinb gets a kill credit, but Arla has been playing so much better this series, Dagda. Despite being 2-4, it's a really good sign of life for LNG.
Yeah, and I like that Doinb waited a while to come into that play, because you could see that LNG were worried that if Doinb showed, IG start up Baron and then try and just burst it down. But with Zika now dead, LNG get an uncontested soul. And this one's a 2-0. I mean, what do you say from here? I mean, It's only 5k or 4k, whatever it is, but this game is so done, it's not even funny.
And it makes me more confused about LNG's position. I don't think I learned anything in this series, Dagda. Cleanliness of play, yes. LNG really punished in game one. This second game has been a bit of a clinic, and as we look at this again, I do feel like LNG deserve a bit of praise for some of these clutch moments.
Yeah, and I think this is more the style that I expected to see from LNG, right? Where it's, hey, we're going to play heavily around bot side. Light does really well with resources. We got Doinb on his dark technologies, making sure that he's able to have some advantage in the matchup, providing what maybe is lacking from LNG's composition, which is just a bit of engage/disengage. And you're able to play through these early advantages, look for dragons, look for the push on bot side so Light gets ahead, and then that's how LNG played. This is exactly what I think a lot of people were looking for from LNG on paper, but this is one of the rare times that we actually get to see it.
Where Doinb's already been playing well, but Dagda further to that point, Tarzan in control I think is a big deal. Tarzan being able to call the shots a bit seems where LNG found their bread and butter. You remember spring, you remember that LNG kind of relied on this man, and I could say that about any year because he's been the pivotal member even in the Icon roster.
Yeah, I mean, back when they went to Worlds in 2021, it was the Tarzan show, and Yuekai's gone.
What's new? Yeah.
I mean, this is Baron. LNG can just run straight over towards this.
Well, we're just praising LNG over and over. And as we start the Baron
It feels
off...
weird. It feels dirty.
In which part, Dagda? The game?
They're praising LNG. Both, to be perfectly honest.
Doinb, we missed this one. What a flank here. This teleport comes onto the Baron. Last try, looking for the steal. Sean flashes, wants it, but denied. LNG pull off his unit, and that cohesive play is what we've been wanting to see. As Doinb's ultimate almost up and available, but he has to flash the bailout. The movement speed now concocting towards Wink. The body slam not connecting, but Clean's already burnt. Double flash handshake is great. XinLiu with a 5-man ulti, but everyone's already dead. He just wanted to show the audience that he could do something this game, Dagda, but I am still not convinced.
Yeah, XinLiu's Amumu is not the play. LNG now starting to move. Yeah, the Shin move, as we say.
Yeah, well.
It was the Shin Boy. Is that the game as well?
But
look, this is a weird road to be on. LNG got to crack open the base. They have the Baron. I mean, this is just like closing out this game as any way you want.
This is again to watch. It has been like this for the last couple of plays. Let's watch this one again. Shun, a nice try, Dagda. I think we got to give him that.
I mean, he really did try, but 2000 HP on the Baron. No excess damage coming in from over the wall because, again, this composition is so short-ranged. And it's just messy. Doinb even getting the speed up here from the bailout means that he's able to chase down onto Wink. And then XinLiu flashing in. What a hero to get the play, but
Hey, a 5-man, you know, that's impressive. He's 0 and 5. That is not impressive. Okay, Fate's call onto Doinb. He has 3 items though with the Zonias and explosive cars. Doinb showing us that sometimes he can be in control while you drink and drive. Wink didn't get the memo, and Doinb now turning it back on its head. The question mark's up from Blitzcrank. 1 versus 2. And the fat man sings out loud as IG even lose jungler in their base, Dagda. This one coming to a halt.
5 levels up. He's 5 levels above the AD carry. And they're like, let's go. Full send it. We got this.
He's teleporting in, and with IG left with 2 carries standing, this game has been sad to watch, but also perfect from LNG as they walk forward, try to recount their name. Doinb once again drinking and driving in the face of IG. Don't take his lessons to heart, kids. This man has been on a tear for the whole split, and on this Gragas mid, on his 10th unique champion, comes up trumps once again. LNG with the fire back in their bellies, a great sign moving into the halfway point of the LPL split. Pat the stats, boys, you deserve it.
A very quick 2-0 from LNG, and I'm not gonna lie, I think that's the first time I've seen Doinb clap as they come off of a stage. A little bit hint of a smile on his lips as well. I mean, much more coherent, much more cohesive from LNG, and a great series. I mean, across the board, they're just able to dominate.
Oh man, well, it's a disappointment for me because IG, a team I hyped up massively. LNG have a lot of problems, right? And we still know they're working through those problems, but while they are working on it, for IG, we've gone the complete opposite way. And I don't know what it was, Dagda, in that series. I don't know where we start. Maybe with the drafts, right? Because you were not, a fan of the drafts at all through game 1 and game 2, and I can see why.
Yeah, not even a little. The fact that in game number 1, you have a very clear look at LNG going for these not really great engage tools, very short range composition. You've already locked into long range damage dealers and you're like, oh yeah, well, we're going to play engage. You're like, no, you don't need that. You could have just gone for the Jace. You could have gone for this poke composition and really put the hurt on towards LNG. And then even when you look at this game as well, just pick an identity. Like if you want to go for Wink on the Kalista, I'm cool with that. Kalista Azir should never really be in the same composition. They do completely opposite things from each other. And as well, then going for the Fiora on the top side. So you never really have engaged to play around a Kalista or, a front line to set up for the Azir. It was all just super messy. And I think LNG, again, just taking a very easy to execute composition. I mean, the Poppy was able to run rings around everyone in the early stages as well. Tarzan getting some great ganks off. And yeah, it's heartbreaking to see because, again, I don't see a way that IG get into playoffs now. Like, I just don't think there's a world where you still got JDG, RNG, V5 yet to play, and you're now sitting 1-6, or was it 1-6 on the board. Like, this is just not going to be it. As I think we're supposed to hide the screenshot at the bottom, lads. Not gonna lie.
Oh, well, PvP is up and working, that's for sure, as we saw in that game. So I like that. LNG obviously opening the program now on a Mac. Dagda, I've been there. I've done that. And I will say that's a clean Mac desktop. The game doesn't really matter too much to me anymore because I've never seen a desktop or like a bar on a Mac that clean. Yeah. There's not enough Adobe. There's not enough, editing software. Like, that's a different beast.
It just seems very strange to me to create this graphic and then screenshot it rather than just using the save file. Like, that's the part that I just don't understand. Like, I don't know. All right. Anyway, we move on with our lives. Yeah, they're just like, oh, well, we screwed it. But LNG did not screw it. 15-0 KDA. Again, for Tarzan highest KDA in the game of this Poppy. Looking pretty damn swell, and it has to be said. And Light once more being set up for success. This is what I want to see from LNG. I just hope we keep getting it as their series go on.
Me too. A 2-0 is a good start for that. IG looking like a 16th place team. Apparently, all of a sudden, really sad to see. Dagda, I need to come back because I haven't talked about this before, but I actually started League of Legends on a Mac. Season 3, I think it was when, maybe it was season 3 or maybe it was season 4 or 5, where League of Legends became compatible on Macs. I had a Mac for some reason because I wanted to be artsy. I wanted Photoshop. And all I had was a trackpad. And I was like, oh, what games can I play? League of Legends was available.